Welcome to Conversations with Cox and Kielseth, and to be more specific, that is filmmaker Alex Cox and myself, film curator Pablo Kielseth. Alex will join us by phone from his home in Oregon, while I sneak away from my office to call him from one of the projection booths used by the International Film Series, which has been screening foreign and independent movies at CU Boulder since 1941. We will keep our chats to about 20 minutes as we discuss whatever movie-related topics grab our fancy. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, action.
Yeah, man, now we're cooking with gas.
Awesome. Alejandro, always nice to hear your voice.
Igualmente.
We've got three topics today, I think. We've got Hitchcock's Frenzy from 1972. We are also going to be talking about Shaknazarov's White Tiger, a Russian film from 2012. And you mentioned that you might want to touch on the termination of the Paramount degree. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. That would be interesting to talk about as well if we have time.
Sure. Well, let's just dive into it. So I just saw Frenzy, and this is weird. I thought I'd seen it before. I think I'm wrong because I saw it with fresh eyes, at least, because I don't think I'd seen it. And this is to be specific for people listening, I actually went to campus to the Munzinger Auditorium where I normally program the International Film Series with 400 seats. And I have to tell you something. They put the flags in place for the students to sit there. So it's a 400-seat auditorium, and there were 41 flags that were pinned to the back of like the chairs where they had deduced that these would be like the safe distances. And I understand, too, from the standpoint of wanting to clean up an auditorium afterwards, that you would want to be able to know which chair to clean. So I went out of my way to sit in one of the flagged chairs. And then Jason, who puts together, our podcasts as well as the Z Briefs and
projects and directs.
Oh,
and
I know.
writes
He's a multi-hyphenate who does everything. So he was there projecting. And we saw this 35 millimeter print that had been donated to us by John Templeton, who is, an old-time projectionist who retired a few years earlier after, Jesus Christ, some 150 years working on campus. And the print was red all the way through except for one reel. And that one reel popped out, like the color. It was just like amazing. But so I was having my own experience just to be back in a large auditorium, just to be back in front of a celluloid to experience the grain of projected celluloid.
on a big screen.
On a big screen, and I didn't even mind the fact that it was red. But I got to tell you, when it popped into color, it was like the Wizard of Oz, man. It was just like, boom!
Great.
And it was just
great.
like, Now, of course, we have to get to the content. We're talking about Frenzy, which was directed by Alfred Hitchcock at the age of 73, and it was released in 1972, and it was his 52nd penultimate feature, and it involves a serial killer who strangles women with a necktie, and it's
And if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, then you might be interested in this movie, Frenzy.
Yeah, well, it was the first film that Hitchcock got slapped with an X rating for in the UK, and he got an R rating in the US. And it's also the first of his films to use nude moments, nude scenes. And it's the first film that Hitch shot in Britain since 1956 when he did The Man Who Knew Too Much. Now,
although that can't really all be correct, can it? Because you think about there's certainly a suggestion of nudity in Psycho, and I imagine Psycho and The Birds got an X rating in England when they were first released.
Well, no. Here's the thing: Psycho, of course, also had a pervy serial killer, but all of the violence there was brought to the fore into the unconscious of the minds of the viewers, because you never actually saw knives stabbing flesh. You never saw nipples. You never saw but all the stuff got pieced together in such a way that you thought it was there, but it wasn't. Whereas But I was saying that nevertheless, in spite of that observation, I'm sure that Psycho got an X
from the British censor and also the birds, probably.
Ah, interesting. I can't speak for that. What I will tell you that I thought was fascinating was that I read on the IMDb trivia page that Frenzy, apparently it's on Bellatar's top 10 lists. And that to me was very strange, except when I saw the movie tonight, there was a moment, and I this is, I'm just guessing here, but holy smokes, I'm pretty sure this is why. It was an amazing tracking shot. It was an amazing tracking shot with the camera in front of the killer, who is with, Bob, and he's with Bab, who's about to be killed. But the camera's in front of them, and it follows them on the street, and it goes into a marketplace and an interior area where things are also happening. And then it follows them up the stairs, and the camera's in front of them the entire time. And all of a sudden it loops around, and suddenly the door closes, and the camera slowly moves all the way down the stairs and then out onto the streets where it choreographs itself between moving traffic, and it just settles on the windows, and she's going to die. And the thing is, that is the kind of tracking shot that Bellatar totally made his movies he is known for his tracking shots. And so I think that's one of the moments that made him just go, whoa, holy smokes, I want to do that.
Yeah, and of course, Hitchcock was famous for Rope, which is the idea of shots where they even hide the real change, so they have very, very long, impossibly long shots during the course of the film. Sorry, you were saying?
No, and there was and mind you, at this point, I'm sort of tongue in cheek when I say this, but one of the last films that I saw by Bellatar was at the Telluride Film Festival, and it was The Turin Horse from 2011, so 9 years ago. And the thing about that movie, for anyone who has seen that movie, it's an apocalyptic movie, so don't watch it right now, maybe, unless you're into that. But every day, it's them eating a potato. And the fact that in Frenzy, this body gets put in the back of a potato truck, and it's all about potatoes, because then the killer realizes that he's left his lapel pin in the grasp of the body, has the lapel pin. And sorry, spoilers for those who are listening. So he has to go back into the potato truck, and it's like him with potatoes struggling to get this pin back. And I thought of the Turin Horse at that moment, and I just thought, nope, that's perfect. It's all about the potatoes.
I think that the potatoes notwithstanding, and Bellatar's, respect for the film notwithstanding, I think the Hitchcock's later work is really pretty overrated. I mean, I think that Psycho is damn good, and there's some good stuff in The Birds, but the rest of the color stuff isn't very good. And his best films were like 39 Steps and Foreign Correspondent and Lifeboat and not this weird obsessional kind of Scotty blonde woman weirdo stuff, Murder the Prostitute. It's horrible. It's not very nice anyway.
Well, it was, this is his 52nd penultimate feature, and it doesn't get talked about a lot. It actually gets kind of shoveled or put under the carpet a bit because it's salacious, because it deals it, and a lot of it does not
just
well.
Salacious,
Absolutely.
but murderous. I mean, it's not salacious could just mean like having sex, but it's about anyway. It's a sordid film, not very nice. And so let's move on to our next subject.
Well, actually, so you are the one who said, Pablo, I want you to watch this Russian film from 2012 called White Tiger, which was winner of the 2013 Golden Eagle Award. And it's a World War II film with impressive tank battles. And I got to tell you, I while watching it, I just couldn't help but think, man, the carbon footprint for this movie
this film alone, all the diesel fumes pouring out of the back ends of those tanks, yeah.
However, it shares something in common with lower key films that you and I both have talked about before, which we both really enjoyed and admired, such as Spielberg's shot for TV film, back in 71, it was Duel, and also
Duel, yeah.
Yeah, and then and there was 1977's The Car, which starred James Brolin.
I don't know that film as well, but is it the same kind of thing as Duel? It's like a vengeful car that's coming after the guy.
Yeah. No, they're definitely lower carbon footprint films because they're lower key films. Whereas these tank films, oh my gosh, I was looking at that and watching these tanks just destroy the terrain. You know that they couldn't do those. They couldn't stage those shots it was like one take. You got to, because once you do those scenes, the tanks are gone. They've exploded and the terrain is just munched. But you are the one who brought it to my attention. So you tell me, what was it that really caught your eye about, White Tiger?
I was just watching these Russian World War II films that were available on the website that we've talked about before, RussianFilmHub.com, where you can see a variety of Russian films from various epochs and of various genres. And so I thought I would watch some war films from the Second World War films from the last 10 years. One of them was White Tiger, and it's all about tank battles. There's a whole subgenre, apparently, of Russian tank battle films. But this one is interesting because it has this very strange kind of mystical religious aspect. The hero is a tank whisperer who... having suffered 90% burns over his body, cannot possibly have survived, and yet has recuperated and has become like the tank guy. That's so you get the idea in general. You know what the movie's going to be like. It's about a lot of tank battles, and he's the man, and it's a very interesting story. The characters are really good. There's even better tank battle movies. So if you want to see a good tank battle movie, check out Pavlov's 28 Men, because that's a different movie on the same site, or you can find it on the internet. Pavlov's 28 Men has even better tank action, even more detail to the exploding tracks of the tanks and how they get immobilized and stuff, and how they're used to horrible purposes, against poor soldiers in the trenches. But the most interesting thing about White Tiger, as opposed to Pavlov for me, was the ending, where it goes into this kind of alternate Philip K. Dick sort of reality where the Nazis didn't really lose the war and Hitler didn't commit suicide in the bunker. And so the film ends with Hitler kind of giving an interview or having a conversation with some character that we don't really see their face in a mansion, beside a big fire, where Hitler's kind of justifying himself and saying he was right all along, and nobody likes the Jews, we'll get them later, but the main thing right now is to get the Russians, and you think, what's going on, and what did you make of and that was a spoiler of the end of the film, but I don't think the director would mind, because that's the most important part of the film. And what did you think of it?
I guess the way that conversation in that very last part of the film relates to the rest of the film is in the way that the White Tiger tank, the Nazi White Tiger tank, and is described as a tank that doesn't have a soul, it doesn't have a person inside of it, and it just continues.
Right. There's a suggestion, and there's a suggestion that it doesn't actually have a crew, as you say, that it's an artifact of war.
And that's why I thought of The Car, because The Car also does not have a person. It's just like the devil. The devil is in the car, and in this case, the devil is in the tank. And then we have the one person who he's our protagonist, sort of, for the first two parts, and then he disappears for the last part, which was interesting.
Except he reappears one time, because he says there's like three kind of false endings. There's an ending where the Nazis surrender, but the Nazis are really smug and they're not really surrendering, Right. And the Russian guy goes, "No, you come over here and sign on this table," okay, but the Nazis are really kind of like, "Fuck you," And then there's the second ending where you see the tank whisperer again.
Yeah.
And he's obsessively rebuilding the tank, and his major comes along and says, "You can stop now. It's okay. The war's over." And he goes, "No, it's not. No, it's not. It's coming back 25, 50, 100 years from now. It's coming back.
Right.
I've got to rebuild my tank. Got to rebuild, Wow. And then there's the Hitler ending.
Well, but that was to my point. The tank whisperer is saying it never ends. And the Hitler ending is basically saying it never ends because war is just with us all the time. And so that was kind of like this strange message that's, and it's probably true because if you look at humanity right now, we're not doing too well in terms of how we're dealing with some pretty major subjects, including,
And let me ask you a question about because an interesting thing for me watching some of these other films, how was the German accent? How was the acting of the German characters?
As I would say, having spent a year in Hanover in northern Germany where they speak Hochdeutsch, it was High German, except for when Hitler was talking in the third act. I will admit that it was a little hard for me to understand what he was saying, only because there was the voiceover. They were narrating over.
Oh, because that's right. Because there's a German. There's a Russian narrator laid on top of the German dialogue.
And so I couldn't. Yeah. I felt like Hitler's German was somewhere else other than it wasn't quite Hochdeutsch, but at the same time it was hard for me to discern because of the laid-over narrative.
Whereas when they have the two prisoners of war, those guys have translators.
They spoke in their German was perfect.
Great.
Yeah.
Very well. Yeah. Great. Well, good for them for having the proper actors play the part.
Yeah. So now, just one more time for people listening, we were just talking about a Russian film from 2012 called White Tiger that you can watch for free on Russian Film Hub. And we're going to switch gears.
Along with a bunch of other films, along with a bunch of other interesting movies. But now we're switching gear to
termination of the Paramount consent decree. So a federal judge has given the green light to the Justice Department to terminate what is basically a 71-year-old consent decrees that, has basically restricted major studio control over the exhibition process. Now, this is the lifting of the decrees. What this does is it clears the way for studios to once again take significant ownership of theater chains. Now, think about where we are right now in terms of our plague time. Theaters are in dire straits because of the pandemic. And suddenly we have the elimination of this decrees that means that studios and exhibitors will be allowed to engage in a host of business practices that have been prohibited since the late 1940s. Now,
for antitrust reasons.
For antitrust reasons. I'm such an outlier exhibitor with, hardly, I don't, I do not have the same skin in the game as some of my friends and fellow art house exhibitors who are having to pay for, brick and mortar venues. And, for them, not being able to have some of
the back catalog.
Well, I mean, in a nutshell, am I affected by the fact that like the latest this Mulan film that everyone wants to watch except for me, that it goes straight to Disney Plus? No, it doesn't affect me at all because I would never show that at the International Film Series. However, I have friends who are exhibitors, and that would have made a lot of money for them and allowed them to show other quality films and
foreign films and independent films.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal for a lot of players out there, for a lot of exhibitors out there. But do you have other thoughts that you wanted to raise?
No, I think you said it really. I mean, you nailed it. I mean, it's a very strange decision too, because as I understand it, the original Paramount decision went all the way to the Supreme Court. And so how a subordinate judge somewhere way down in the hierarchy can vacate the ruling of the Supreme Court? I don't see how that works, just because the DOJ asked for it. But there's many things I don't understand in this world. But in any case, I think that what you said is true. It's also problematic because since the chains are, all in not just the chains, but all exhibition is in such trouble right now. Combine that with a Chinese-owned chain like AMC, and you can see the next administration, whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden, coming in and doing the same thing as with TikTok, just telling AMC, okay, sell to Disney. And all of a sudden Disney have their own theater chain, which exclusively shows Disney movies.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the AMC, because they just announced that they're going to be opening up more than half of their theaters in Europe and the Middle East. And then on August, here in the United States, they will begin opening the AMC with more than 100 theaters resuming operations on August 20th, which is, of course, just a few days away, and continuing such that about 2/3 of their theaters across the country should be open no later than September 3rd. They're saying that right now. We'll see what happens, because, of course, it's the goalposts keep changing and moving.
Wow. Well, that seems like such an ambitious goal. Yeah. I mean, let's see what happens.
As I said, as coughing, not contagious, hopefully, but
how's your sense of taste? Can you still taste the beer you're drinking?
My taste is good. Thank you, sir. Yes, I feel, thanks for reminding me that taste and smell are some of the two things that you might lose if you get COVID. I am tasting
many other things. Man, it's a mess.
Right. Yeah, it's a mess out there. But at the same time, we got each other right now. And Alex, I got to say, we're a little bit past our 20-minute mark, so I'm going to toss the flag here. But thank you for telling me about White Tiger, because it was interesting.
Wasn't it interesting? Yeah, movie. It's really an interesting film. It's worth watching. I mean, I would encourage people just to watch it and let us know what they think of the ending, because it's the three alternate endings move it into this kind of Man in the High Castle alternate universe, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, it's we, I should mention it. I think I did already, but it came out in 2012 and it won several film awards.
Variety gave it a great write-up. Amazingly enough, Variety said it was superlative in its action scenes. So
there you go. All right, let's end there, and I'm gonna, we'll talk next week about. I'm sure. Things are changing so quickly. I'm sure we'll have some completely different things to talk about next week, but look forward to it. And it's always nice to hear your voice.
Likewise. Yeah. Cheers, mate.
All right. Take care. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
And cut. Okay, that's a wrap.
Thanks again for joining Alex Cox and myself today. I'd like to thank Jason Phelps for handling the audio and Ted Thacker for letting us use the intro to his song, The Ballad of Slim Cessna, for the musical cues that bookend these conversations.